Hey, it's Rick Kamla and Josh Chevalier on the Prop Show on Fantasy Points, heading into week 6 of the college football season. Josh, we're almost halfway through, man. I mean, this season flies by. I say all the time, this is not a marathon. College football is a sprint. We go 12 games, and then obviously plus the conference championship if you make it that far in your bowl game. We're almost halfway through, my brother. How you doing? Great to see you, and let's have some fun tonight.
Yeah, man. No, I'm super pumped for this week. I like the props a lot better this week than I did last week. And so I feel like enough of that 50-50 stuff. I'm excited to bring some good content tonight and be sure of what we got. So it's going to be a fun show for sure.
We have a million props for you guys here tonight. We'll break them down one by one and have a good time while we're doing it. Now, before we go any farther, I have to throw a big bouquet of flowers at my dear friend Josh Chevalier here for cranking me last week in ATL radio. We talked last week about this. It was a big-time showdown. I came in first place in John Michael's College Football Fantasy League, barely over Josh. I think I had a 29-point lead over you or something like that. Josh obliterated me last week. He sunk my battleship for a week, not overall, for a week. But he beat me 385 to 218. Very impressive performance by you guys. And Josh, we shall meet again, I believe. But good win, my friend. I give you credit. I tip my cap to you.
Dude, thanks, man. I mean, we went over this last week, but your team had a lot of buys. So, I got fortunate with the matchup and the bye weeks, and we'll see each other again in the finals. And that'll be a fun conversation to have on here as well.
So I've been owning this league 3 straight years, all right? And Josh is in it now. And like we've talked about, the competition has been ratcheted up for your boy. And so now Josh is in first place, and we will play the season out, and we'll be talking to you guys about it. It is a league that has been near and dear to my heart and is, in this moment, near and dear to Josh's heart. So last week was not hot for us, all right? We were 4-6, 40%, obviously, and a 10 prop delivery is a low number for us, okay? And that's the collaborations and the agreements that we had last week. But we were sizzling the 2 weeks prior to that. On the year, we're 32-13, 71%. So hang in there with us, guys. I anticipate a bounce back this week, Josh, because as you said, I felt like this board made more sense. And so let's dive in, man. Start us off with Will Howard, who you now have on your team in Cam Dynasty. He used to be on my team, and the waiver wire is strong in this league. He is at Oklahoma State, who pretty much sucks this year. 255.5 is the passing yard prop on Will Howard. You going over or under?
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit to this, and then I thought you had some really good stats on this, so I'll throw it to you. But, all I'm going to say on this is Oklahoma State, they haven't really played many tough competitors this year, tough competition. But they did play Iowa State, who I would not put in the tough competition category this year. But they gave up 348 yards passing to Rocco Becht. And, I mean, he's just a guy that is not very good, right? His next highest total this season is 233 yards. And so, and Will Howard, I'll let you talk a little bit about who he actually is and what he's done this year. But I think if Rocco Becht is throwing 348 on this Oklahoma State defense, then Will Howard has a chance to do the same. So I'm going over, and I'll pass it to you.
This is a modest number, 255.5. We don't have to scorch and get to 300 or anything like that. He's been living around this number in every game. 297, 250, 270, and 255. So we're over that number in 2 of 4. We're right on the number in another one and right under the number in the other one. So what puts us over? A couple of things here, because I'm over on this one as well. I like that they're on the road, okay, because, again, like Oklahoma State sucks. Kansas State is good. Kansas State should win this football game, but it's on the road. It'll be tougher, and I think that's going to lead to more passing as opposed to if you're home and you're up 3 touchdowns. Now game script in the second half turns into the Giddens and Trayshawn Ward show because he's expected back this week. I mean, I think that'll be, to a degree, the case, but not as much if it was a home game. And Oklahoma State just absolutely sucks at defending the pass. They're giving up 64% completion rate, which is extremely high, 233.8 with the yards and 2 touchdowns per game. Their pass defense sucks. Will Howard's a good player. He's got weapons, and I like it. So we're both going over here on Will Howard. Talk to me, Josh, on Illinois quarterback Luke Altmaier against Nebraska, 185.5. You over or under on Cool Hand Luke?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty low number for Luke. I mean, he's a guy that with Isaiah Williams as his pass catcher, they've had a pretty good chemistry over the last few weeks. Luke Altmaier is actually over 4 of the last 5 games of this 185.5 mark. And Nebraska's a team that has actually got like a top 15 rush defense. So they're only getting up 86.8 yards per game, 2.86 yards per carry, and that's including playing Michigan. And, they didn't stop Blake Corum. Nobody stops Blake Corum, but they certainly held him lower and made him be less efficient than he usually is. But we have seen teams have success against Nebraska through the air. So you have Shedeur Sanders, right? We remember that game, slow out the gate, but hit 393 by the end of the game. Jack Turner, who's playing right now and just playing abysmally against Western Kentucky on TV. Don't switch from us, please. But 292 passing yards against Nebraska. And then you got your boy, Kaliak Manis from Minnesota, right? And he hit 196 in week 1. So 3 guys have gone over this number against Nebraska. Altmaier's done it 4 out of 5 times. So you know what? This is a team that doesn't want to pass it a ton, but Illinois just might have to in order to win this game. So I'm going to go over on Luke Altmaier, 185.5.
So I'm going to take the invisible rubber stamp and agree with you there. I needed you to sell me on this. I watched Luke Altmaier play, and I was subjected to the Penn State game. Okay, and he was awful, and so I gave him up for dead, honestly. And so he's been off my radar, Josh. So I mean, it's a low numbers, over 4 out of 5, and I love your rationales here. So I will rubber stamp this with you. I was a stay away. And because you're so persuasive, and because you're a goat, you've won me over here. And I will go. I will go over with you as well. So let's move on to Dylan Gabriel here, and obviously it's the Red River rivalry, huge game. Can't wait. Noon. I'll be working Mad Dog Sports Radio on Saturday, coming off of this game, and I'll be vibing on it because it should be absolutely tremendous. Dylan Gabriel has been a rock star this year. His number is 270.5, but I got to go under here, Josh, because he's averaging 318.6, well over this number. But Texas's pass defense has been extraordinary, and they played some decent teams, including Alabama. 53% they're allowing, 196 in terms of yards, and 0.8 touchdowns. They've been super, super stingy to passing games, and I have a feeling that this game I don't see 48-45 here. I just don't. I mean, we might. It's possible. We have explosive offenses, but to me, they're not that explosive. This isn't, a USC type of team. These teams can score, but they're just not print touchdown offenses to me. And both teams are elite defensively, at least on the resume leading up to this game. Texas is giving up 12.8 points per game. Oklahoma's giving up 10.8 points per game. So I have a feeling that we may be going under on the total. We may be going under on a lot of the individual player props in this game. So love me some Dylan Gabriel. He's been fantastic. He might have 4 touchdowns in 250 or something like that. But I'm going under on 270.5, Josh. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, I thought you made really good points. I'm definitely on the under as well. Here's my hot Homer Texas take here. I don't know if Gabriel makes it out of this game as QB1. I'm just saying, if he struggles in the first half, I think he could get, Spencer Rattler got Caleb Williams, a couple years ago, and Oklahoma was able to make a comeback. If they do struggle in the first half and Texas does somehow go up 2 or 3 touchdowns, I wonder if they don't make a switch. I have a bunch of buddies that are huge OU fans. We're in a group chat together on game days, and they're not huge Gabriel fans despite the numbers he's putting up. And they feel like he's actually playing a bit conservative because he's afraid to make mistakes because Jackson Arnold's in his wings. And Jackson Arnold is an elite prospect, at least from a college quarterback perspective. And he's been unbelievable when he's come into games. And so if they need a spark plug and things aren't going well, then Dylan Gabriel could come in. Jackson Arnold could come in and replace Dylan Gabriel. And then that definitely takes the 270 under. So for every reason you said, plus maybe our man doesn't even get out of this game as QB1. So there we go.
And here's how pivotal this game is, Josh. I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. If Dylan Gabriel goes for 275 and 4 touchdowns and Oklahoma beats Texas, okay, he now will vault into the Heisman conversation. And
sure.
the Arnold thing will probably drift into the background. We'll see how this game goes. Guys, this is absolutely one of the games of the year in college football. And It's always a great game, but now with the teams positioned the way they are, especially Texas as high as they are, this is a monstrous game. One of probably at least the 10 biggest games of the entire year in college football. We'll both go under on Dylan Gabriel, though, at 270.5. Let's move on to Brady Cook here, the Missouri quarterback. They're hosting LSU. I know that the Missouri thing is all geeky. Okay, they're 5-0. We got a 269.5 passing yard prop on Brady Cook. Talk to me, Josh. Where are you going, up or down?
Yeah. So I'm going over on this. I mean, I'll let you say some of Brady Cook's numbers here in a minute. I mean, they've been unbelievable the last 3 weeks. Deuce Chestnut was just actually not dismissed from the team, but he's on a leave of absence. So they're down to like 5 corners in that secondary for LSU. And they've given up a lot of yards to opposing P5 quarterbacks. I'm going to run this down. Jordan Travis, week 1, threw for 342 against them. KJ Jefferson, your boy, who always go
used to be my boy, not anymore. Ruined me last week.
But he hit 289 against LSU. Jackson Dart, 389. Now, these are all like good passing offenses, right? Or guys that are capable. Will Rogers, like to even it out, only hit 103. But against P5 QBs in the 4 games that they played them, 280.8 yards passing is what they're giving up. And that's including the Rogers tank game, where he didn't even play the whole game. So, for me, like Brady Cook, Luther Burden is just unbelievable this year, right? We've talked about him. We'll talk about him again later. And I just think this LSU defense is shaky enough from what I saw against Ole Miss and the previous teams that I'm going to trust Brady Cook's hot hand, and I'm going to go with the over on this one.
All right. So I'm going to go the other way on this one. We do not have an accord. I'm going to go under on this number, 269.5. I got a vibe on LSU this week. I think they're going to respond off of the second loss. I like them ATS. I like them to go into Mizzou and cover the, I think, 5 or 6. It started at 8, and it's been bet down with some Missouri money. I think LSU is going to respond and have a very good performance here at Missouri. And we've also got a situation of program strength, right? Brian Kelly's got one of the nation's top programs, even though they've suffered a couple of L's, and Missouri is trying to get there, okay? So is Missouri a little team that could, ready for prime time against a pissed-off, wounded animal, LSU national power? I don't think so. I'm going to bet against that. Now, Brady Cook's been fantastic. He's gone 172, 204, 356, 341, and 395 last week at Vandy. What I see in the trend there, we've obviously got back-to-back 300-yard games, but he topped out last week. And we talk a lot, Josh. I'm big on the ebb and the flow and on the career game and the career year, and I'm always going to fade a guy after that. 395 stands out as a absolute high water mark for Brady Cook. He's coming back down. Now, you did a great job of unpacking how bad the LSU pass defense has been. It's a big reason why they've got 2 L's right now. Their defense has been hugely disappointing. They're giving up 31 points per game. They're giving up 260 through the air and 2.6 passing touchdowns through the air. That's all god-awful, okay? I just, Josh, anticipate a competitive response here from LSU. I anticipate guys flying around, guys flying to the football, guys trying to take helmets off. I just really think it's going to be a wounded animal scenario. We just saw Clemson, similar situation. You lose to FSU, your season's over. You've got your second loss. You go to Syracuse and you beat them and you cover because you have a stronger program than a little team that could. I think we have mirror images here with LSU going to Missouri, and I do see history repeating itself there. So We disagree on Brady Cook. Let's move on to Chandler Morris here. Josh, kick us off. He's at Iowa State, and Matt Campbell needs to get on the next thing, smoking to the NFL, because this Iowa State thing is going the wrong way. But we got 260.5 for Chandler Morris, TCU QB at ISU. You going over or under?
Yeah, I'm going over. Chandler Morris has hit the over on this 260.5 every single game this year, and I think he'll do it again. Iowa State D, they've been tough against defenses opposing offenses like Iowa or Ohio, who's really struggled this year. But against Oklahoma State a few weeks ago, they gave up 278, and then against Dylan Gabriel, they gave up 366. And so, I'm going to say that Chandler Morris and the TCU offense is closer to the Oklahoma States and the Oklahomas of the world than the Ohio's and Iowas. And so I'm going to go over here.
I'm over as well. He's averaging 284 passing yards per game, and we're at 260.5. Last week against West Virginia, shot up to 298. And Iowa State gives up 23 points per game. So we're not talking about a good defense right here. So, pardon me. So I like the over here on Chandler Morris at 260.5. Had a little indigestion popping up right there in the middle of the prop show, heading into week 6 on Fantasy Points. Rick Kamla and the great Josh Chevalier here. All right, let's move on to running backs. And we've got LaQuint Allen in a Syracuse at North Carolina football game, 75.5 rushing yards. Not crazy about the number here, Josh, but I'll go over. His attempts in the last 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks were weird. The last 3 weeks, we've gotten a little bit of consistent traction with the carries. He's gone 17, 21, 14. That was last week in the dud game against Clemson. The average per carry for him has gone 4.7 to 5 to 3.7 last week, as I said, against Clemson. We got a big-time bounce-back factor built in here for LaQuint Allen. Good football player and coming off of a down game. You've got, in terms of North Carolina, they're giving up 124 per game on the ground, 1.8 touchdowns per game on the ground. And so I like LaQuint Allen here. I like the bounce back factor. Syracuse didn't do much against that Clemson defense. And obviously we had a wounded animal scenario here. North Carolina, Josh, comes in pretty high on the hog. And to me, that makes them almost vulnerable for an upset. Like, I don't trust the North Carolina thing. Mac Brown is their coach. Like, this is what he does. He boots games he's supposed to win, especially at home. So I will go over on LaQuint Allen, Josh, at 75.5. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. And I will say this. If we can get a rushing receiving prop that's under 100 yards, like a rushing plus receiving, I would take that with LaQuint Allen because he is so versatile, right? He's going to get a lot of 3 or 4 catches in a game. But right now, all they got up is this rushing prop. And so I'm going to go over on this one. Hey, UNC P5 opponent running backs. Let's go through them. Darius Taylor, right? The true freshman phenom, 138 yards against UNC. Nate Noel, right? A G5 running back for App State, 127 yards. Rodney Hammond, who's not even starting anymore for Pitt, hit 83 yards against this defense. So I think if this defense has a weakness, it is their, rushing defense. And so I'm going to hit LaQuint Allen on the over. I mean, he's super talented. He can explode at any time. I mean, even in that loss last week to Clemson, he was the bright spot of that offense. And so I think, I think we're on to something. I think 75.5, I think he's going to be able to get it. It is a higher number than we traditionally like, but I think it's a number that you can get there in this game, particularly if they want to play keep away now that Tez Walker's back for UNC.
Amen for that. Apparently, North Carolina resubmitted paperwork and all this, and the NCAA came to their senses and realized, we kind of sort of ruined James Wiseman. Let's not do this again with Des Walker. And I mean, he makes North Carolina that much more special and electric and dangerous for the ACC. A terrific player and should be a good boost to the numbers and activity of Drake May. Carson Steele, UCLA running back. This number's too high, Josh. They're at home against Washington State. We're at 78.5. So I'm under on this one. So we've got a split backfield here. We've got TJ Harden and we've got Carson Steele. And in the last game against Utah, each had 11 carries. The previous game against North Carolina Central, they each had 5 carries. The previous game against San Diego State, it was 12-9 in favor of Steele. In the previous game against Coastal Carolina, it was 13-11 in favor of Steele. And so we've got like almost a 50-50 split right here. That doesn't bode well for a 78.5. And we're no longer playing Coastal Carolina. We've got Washington State. They're a legitimate football team. Their run defense hasn't been great. They're giving up 131 on the ground per game, 4.4 yards per carry. I would say that's maybe average. Maybe, I mean, it's not like horrible. It's not great, but it's generous. Now, Dante Moore, your guy, Josh, he ran 10 times against Utah. Okay, he's running the ball. At least in that game, he ran it a lot. And so we've got a split backfield. We've got a quarterback who can leak out and run a little bit. That's another reason to go under right here. But and so I look at this, Josh. UCLA is going to have to run for 150 to 200 yards as a team for Carson Steele to get safely here over 78.5. I don't see that happening. I could see them running for 135, 145. You chop that up over the 3 dudes carrying the rock. Carson Steele probably doesn't get to 78.5. So I will go under on this one, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think Utah laid out the blueprint right on how to shut down this UCLA offense. And Washington State, like they are a better defense than I think that they are traditionally given credit for, because look, they played Wisconsin. Wisconsin had 2 running backs that are very capable, right? Utah, traditionally a good running team. And so it's not like their competition has been just downright awful. San Diego State, the same thing. Like, these are teams that are like pretty decent. So, I think Washington State is just a better team overall than what we're giving them credit for.
Pardon me there, Josh. Pardon me. Go ahead, sir.
You're good. But yeah, I think that they'll hit the under pretty easily on this. Carson Steele, I think his best days are behind him. So I'm going under.
I thought he'd be more lead backish for UCLA. The TJ Harden thing. Look, we know kind of the flow of running backs and that kind of thing, but I thought Carson Steele would be a bigger deal in college football this year. The transfer from Ball State hasn't gone that way. In some leagues, he was being drafted very, very high in leagues, and it's disappointing that he's in a split backfield, but it is what it is, and it could be a money-making opportunity for us here going under on his line against Washington State. It's the prop show with your guys, Rick Kamla, Josh Chevalier here on Fantasy Points, breaking down Week 6 in college football. Daijun Edwards here at home against Kentucky. Josh, 77.5 is the number. You going over or under on Edwards?
Yeah, I have under written down, and this is an under or stay away for me. I mean, I think this number is really close on Edwards at 77.5, but he hit 118 against South Carolina, 66 against UIB, and then 76 against Auburn. So 2 of the 3 games that he's really played a lot, he's gone under, but it's been close, right? It's not like he's like extremely under, and there's a lot of injuries in that backfield. So he's really the only guy. But man, Kentucky D versus, opposing RB1s, they're giving up 10 attempts for 35.5 yards. And then, they got, Cedric Alexander, they've given up 37 yards. Montrell Johnson, 42. Lingard, 30. So they're just not giving up a ton. Now, I recommended our boy Ray Davis last week, and he just went off. So maybe I'm not the best at predicting these SEC running backs going under.
No, you're slamming it, man. All year you have. This is a stay away from me. And you said it the best right at the top. It's just, it's too right on where he's going to be. Like, if we're at 85, I'm thinking under. If we're at 65, I'm thinking over. This is probably where he's going to live. I think it's a very appropriately set line. His carries have gone, and he's only played 3 games this year, but his carries have gone 20, 12, and 19 last week against Auburn. The yards have gone 118, then down to 66, then 76 last week against Auburn. Kentucky, to me, is a better defensive team than Auburn, and Auburn's a pretty good defensive team. And this one's in Georgia. Obviously, last week was at Auburn. Look, I like Edwards. I think he's a good fantasy play. He's going to get you 75 and a touch. Like, I think that's the floor here, but he might not get more than that. Okay. Kentucky's run defense is badass. They're giving up 76 yards a game, 2.5 yards per carry. You know, I'm really fascinated by this game, and Josh and I are going to talk about it a little bit later before we bid y'all adieu. But, you know, I just wonder, you know, Georgia does look vulnerable to me. They had a bad first half against South Carolina, rescued the game. They had a bad first half against Auburn, rescued the game. Does somebody that's more adept than those teams capitalize on a flimsy, flat first half authored up by Georgia and go ahead and finish the deal? If that happens, Edwards is probably going under. If the number one team in the nation restores order here, he's probably going over, but it's a stay away for me. It's just too close to where I think Edwards will be. So let's go from one D Edwards to another D Edwards here, Josh, on the prop show on Fantasy Points. We got Donovan Edwards at my Gophers here. It's a Saturday night joint. It'll be on either Peacock or NBC or whatever. And, you know, my old stomping grounds where I grew up, Josh, I promise you this is going to be a monstrous game. It's probably homecoming or something like that. But we got Donovan Edwards at 49.5 rushing yards. You're going over or under on the backup running back for Michigan State, for Michigan.
Yeah. I'm going under on this, man. I mean, he's only hit over one time on this, and it was 50 yards, right? So by half a yard. Now, he did hit 48 one other game, but then other three games, he goes 37, 13, and 9. I mean, this is a guy that's just really struggling right now. And to opposing RB2s, Minnesota's only given up 5 carries and 18 yards, a high of 36. And so I just don't see Edwards getting there unless he has some just crazy run that he hasn't done all year. But, you know, I think it's a pretty safe under, to be honest.
He has been Donovan Edwards. I mean, he's been dropped in fantasy leagues, and he had a really good year. Like, you think about Katron Allen and Nick Singleton in Penn State, right? You can rock with either of them in a lineup and feel pretty good about it. That was the case with these Michigan backs last year. That is not the case this year. Edwards is not. I mean, you're losing games if you've got him in your lineup right now. I'm under on this one as well. Last week he went for 14 carries and 48 yards, and that felt a little bit like a pop game for him. But the thing is, we had a 45-7 trouncing of Nebraska, which I think led to, you know, more second half carries, and we're just running clock and just trying to get out of here, right, with this win. This is going to be a closer game, and I do think Michigan's going to win, but it's going to be a closer, more competitive game. That, I think, is going to mean more for Blake Corum, as opposed to going to the bullpen in a blowout. I think we're going to pretty much be getting a lot of Blake Corum here as Michigan, you know, maybe wins by 2 or 3 touchdowns, but they're going to have to play deep into this game. Nakia Watson, the running back for Washington State, and Josh, he is at UCLA here. We've got 43.5 rushing yards, and you're going to go first here. I just want to say, I was big on him in drafts, right? On both of my teams, I drafted Nakia Watson. Man, I dropped him faster, you know, than you can't do analogies anymore, right? Sarcasm jokes, because I had something in mind. But, you know, probably, you know, you just kind of got to lip it sometimes. But I dropped him very, very fast. So I've been kind of out on the Nakia Watson experience for about a month now, Josh. But talk to me, 43.5. Are you feeling frisky and optimistic? Or are you feeling pessimistic here?
Yeah, man, I'm going under on this, man. He's under 3 of the last 4 games. His high for the year is 46. I mean, last week he got out-snapped by Jalen Jenkins. And so even though he had his highest output of the year, and this UCLA rush defense, like, is pretty good. So I'm not going to mess with it, man. I'm going Nakia Watson under. It is a low total, but I think everything's trending, I believe, in the wrong direction for Nakia Watson.
It is, and they like to throw the rock to him and get him and you know and get the rock to him in space and just not even, you know, that's the running play for Nakia. I'm under here as well. Yeah, listen to this. 5 guys had 3+ carries in the win over Oregon State their last game. 5 guys, and they've had a bye week here. But Washington State, and I love them, and I love Washington as well. It just feels like they throw the ball every single time they snap it. And so I'm under on Nakia Watson as well. Let's move on to the wide receivers here on the prop show. Josh Chevalier, Rick Kamla here with you on Fantasy Points. And let's go to Elijah Badger at home against Colorado and the largely defenseless Buffs. We've got 64.5 receiving yards for Elijah Badger. Josh, you over or under here?
Yeah, I'm over. Right, Elijah Badger's hit 3 of the last 4 weeks. He's hit the over on this, and so I feel pretty good. I mean, Colorado. I mean, they've given up 5 100-yard game to opposing wide receivers or tight ends, and then even Brendan Rice last week he hit 81 yards. So you have 6 receivers in 4 games that have gone over on this. I mean, this just feels like a one, where Badger should hit this no problem, 64.5.
It should be a high scoring game, guys. And I believe game script on the Arizona State side is going to lead to more passing to keep up with the obviously swashbuckling Colorado offense. And in terms of quarter, Arizona State's had this revolving door. And I think it was Drew Pine and it was Rashida and all these guys. And now we got Trenton Bourguet. Okay. And so a good sign here. In the last game they played, it was a loss to Cal, 24-21. Bourguet threw for 344 yards, and they attempted 41 pass attempts. Okay, those are all good signs for the over here again. And we're going to have game script in our favor with Badger as they're going to have to throw, I think, to score, and keep up with Shador and the high-flying Colorado Buffaloes. Now, let's move on to the tight end that Bourguet will be throwing to in this football game. It is Jalen Conyers, again, at home against Colorado. We got 39.5 with the receiving yards here. Josh, I presume you're going over here. Are you going over?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this Colorado defense has given up, 69 yards to Jared Wiley in week 1 against TCU. And then, Dallin Holker for Colorado State, he hit 109 yards.
That dude's a stud, by the way. That dude's a freaking stud.
Absolute stud. Yeah. So they're averaging three catches for 39 yards. You got Jalen Conyers. He's hit the over 3 times this year on this. And it's all 3 weeks that he's actually played a whole game. So he got injured in the first 10 minutes of a game, and he didn't hit over on that. But everything else has been safe. So, this feels safer to me than Elijah Badger, to be honest. This feels like one of the safer props on the entire slate.
Conyers is a very talented player. He can really run. I project him to safely go over. I agree. I think this is an even safer play than Elijah Badger. I really do. And again, game script is in our favor here. We got Colorado coming in. They're going to be throwing deep balls. Going to be throw. They are going to put up points on Arizona State. I can guarantee you of that. I don't know if they're going to win. I don't know if they're going to cover, all that kind of stuff. They're going to score points in this football game, and Arizona State's going to have to keep up. Now, let's move on to Jimmy Horn Jr. here. Obviously, Colorado Buffalo wide receiver at Arizona State, 70.5 receiving yards. Josh, this is a stay away for me. He's been under this number in 3 of 5 this year. He had -4 receiving yards in that awful loss at Oregon. I just don't trust it anymore. Jimmy Horn at 70.5 at Arizona State feels like a smash spot, and it really should be a smash spot, but I just don't trust it. And so I feel weird about this. If I had to play it, I'd go over, Josh. But he's just been so inconsistent, and we're trying to give out winners here, and I feel like it's too much of a dice roll, my friend.
Yeah. I put this in here with the intention to put him over, and then I just looked into it more, and I'm just like, man, this is a stay away for me too. And it's last week, Amarion Miller comes out of nowhere and has 196 yards receiving.
Great
it's
call.
How can you really know who's going to go off on any given week?
And you had that week where Dawson had a big game, and Harrison's been rising in the offense, the tight end. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just feels like, and look, Jimmy Horn, he's going to have some weeks where he goes for 100 and a touchdown or 2, but then he's going to have, those where he goes way under this number. So I'm going to stay away with you on this one for sure.
How about Xavier Weaver? Same team, same game, 84.5 receiving yards. How about X Weaver?
Yeah, I'm staying away from that too. Again,
wow.
I thought I wanted to go over, but Amarion Miller is just scaring the bejeebies out of me. If we could get a 39.5 on that guy, because holy cow, that dude was unbelievable against USC. If he had a little bit more jets, he would have had a touchdown on that first one too. I mean, it was a fun game for sure. So, but I'm out. I'm staying away from all Colorado wide receivers for now.
I am a stay away as well. You make a great point with Amari and Miller. He had an absolute revelation game. Weaver's flow is going the wrong way. He's gone down each week. He's been 118. Either I got a typo here or I'm wrong off by one, but 118, 170, 98, 75, 29. Going the wrong way as we get into Pac-12 play here. Now, we did hit rock bottom with 29 yards against USC, so there is the bounce back factor. He will catch more than 29 yards this week at Arizona State, but will he go over 84.5? Maybe. Again, it's just too much of a dice roll for me right now with the other wide receivers ascending, and Weaver doesn't feel as number one for Shedeur as he did a couple of weeks ago. Now, let's talk about the best tight end in ball. His name is Brock Bowers of Georgia, and they'll be hosting Kentucky here. 67.5 is our receiving yard prop. I'm going over here, Josh. Bowers is a big game player. We saw him step up in big games with Stetson Bennett. We've already seen him step up in big situations with Carson Beck. Think about this, man. The fourth quarter of the Auburn game, Georgia is in a meat grinder at Auburn. Should they have been in that predicament? No, but they were. And Brock Bowers had back-to-back one-handed catches on a clutch touchdown drive, capped off by Brock Bowers on a Kelsey-esque catch, pivot, sprint to the pylon touchdown. The guy's a monster, man. Like maybe a top 10 pick like a Kyle Pitts in the 2024 NFL draft. And this is a big game for Georgia, man. I mean, you think about how cakey their schedule is. They've been a little rickety and vulnerable to me. And there's a lot of smooth sailing ahead on their schedule. Kentucky looms as a legitimate threat to go into Athens and beat them. And so for all those reasons, I think Brock Bowers is really going to step up his game and go over this number here of 65.5, Josh. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy that's leading his team in targets, receptions, yards, and TDs, and it's not even close. He's the focal point of this offense. I'm definitely going over to for all the reasons you said.
So Roman Wilson, Josh, talk to me about him at my alma mater, my stomping grounds, Minnesota. It will not be negative 10 degrees yet, but we got 56.5 receiving yards for Roman Wilson at Mini. What you got?
Yeah, I mean, so Roman Wilson, he's over this number 4 or 5 games, right? And he's been close, right? It's not like he's like just crushed this number, but I'm going a little game script here. I do think this is a tough rush defense for Minnesota. I think they give people some fits. I think they make it hard on Quorum and Edwards, obviously. And then, in turn, though, their pass defense can be a little leaky, particularly against slot wide receivers, which Roman Wilson will play out of the slot. Yeah, Kurtz for Northwestern, he hit 10 catches for 215 yards against this team. And then you had McCollum, who had 15 catches for 165. Now, I'm not saying that Roman Wilson does that, but I think there's some precedence here for some big games here. And Roman Wilson's that big play type guy. So I'm going over.
Definite big play guy. I'm going over as well. One bomb TD. A lot of times it's the beginning of the game, Harbaugh likes to take a shot. And you'll see, on the bottom line, R. Wilson, 55-yard touchdown, 7-0 Michigan. Boom, we're over on that catch right there. There will be defensive breakdowns by Minnesota. We must remember. And if some of you are forgetting, my alma mater is extremely choky. They will not win this football game. And if they're in this football game and they tantalize the college football world for a minute, they will at some point grab their throat and choke and find the strangest way to lose, because that's what they do. People in Minnesota think the Gophers are beating number 2. They ain't beating number 2, man. This is not like this isn't even to me a plucky PJ Fleck vintage. I don't like what Minnesota's putting out on the. I mean, they struggled with Louisiana last week. Give me a break. That was a home game, folks. So I will go over on Wilson here as well. Jaron Bradley. Wow. Been a long day, Josh. Jaron Bradley at Baylor here, 49.5 receiving yards. Talk to me about a guy who, heading into last week, I thought was the number 1 on Texas Tech, and I'm not so sure anymore. You going over or under on Bradley?
Yeah, I'm going under, and just for 2 reasons. One, with Baron Morton, he's absolutely stunk. Last 2 weeks with Baron Morton as a starter, he's got 30 yards and then 5 yards. And it's not like they didn't score points. They scored like 48 points last week. It's new quarterbacks they might target other players, right? And this seems to be what's happening right now with Baron Morton. So unless he gets replaced somehow because he's struggling, the backup's a true freshman named Jake Strong. So it should be Baron Morton's job for now. And yeah, I think he's just not Baron Morton's guy. Whereas with Shuck, he had 80 plus yards in both of those games, and he was his guy. But changing of guard due to an injury, and I think this 49.5 is actually a pretty high number, and we should hit under on this for sure.
So last week against Houston, White and Price, who are also wide receivers for Texas Tech, caught 8 for 116 and a touchdown. Bradley caught 1 for 5. So I don't know. Bradley might spike back up and be the number one and have 75 yards. He may have 2 catches for 13 yards. It's too much of a dice roll for me. I'll go under because of all the trends that we're talking about here. But specifically, Josh said it. Some QBs vibe with some wide receivers, and sometimes that just doesn't happen. And you've got Shuck, a starter, Bradley, a starter, okay, playing together all the time. And now maybe, White and Price have been playing a little bit more. I don't know, but maybe, Morton has more synergy with those guys because he's played with them more. Bottom line is we have not seen enough from the Morton and Bradley connection to go over. So we're both going under here. Now, let's move on to USC. They're going to be at home against Arizona. Taj Washington at 70.5 receiving yards. Josh, I am under on this. Wait a second. Did I put in the wrong? Why did I put under? I didn't mean to do that. I'm over on Taj Washington. That's a typo right there. Caleb Williams is unstoppable. Watching that Colorado game, okay, and Colorado is think about it. This is a home game against Arizona. This is even a cakier matchup than at Colorado for USC. But it was Rice. It was Singer. It was Washington. It was Mario Williams, right? Like it was a touchdown. It was just a pinball machine. So yeah, let's go Taj Washington here. And he is a deep ball guy. He's a home run hitter, a Deshaun Jackson type of guy in this offense. So I'll go over on 70.5 here, Josh.
Yep. Over for the last 5 games, he's second among wide receivers in snaps on this team. He's a guy that can do it over the top, like you said, but he's also can take he can do a 5-yard or, pass or a screen pass and take it to the yard as well. So I think he's pretty versatile in how he can get there. And I think Arizona's got enough weapons on the other side that they can make this a game. And it can make it interesting. And so I don't think this is going to be a blowout necessarily. I think they could beat them by 3 touchdowns, but it could be that they keep it within enough scoring, enough striking distance that they have to keep in the starters for the game. And if they do, then Taj Washington, I think, is going over on this.
You know what I like about that? If Jaden Delora plays, I think Arizona could do what you're talking about right there. If Jaden Delora does not play, I don't think they can do all that stuff that you were saying. But I will say this, like USC is in the business of getting to 50. And it doesn't matter, right? Like if the other team has 20 or 40 or 30 or 13, I think USC and Lincoln Riley is like, we're going until we hit 50 and then we'll power down and bring our backup quarterback in because Caleb Williams is mounting numbers that is going to make it impossible for anybody to come get the Heisman from him, right? You think about the Penixes and the Cam Wards, and we got some guys putting up some amazing statistics. They're not doing what Caleb Williams is doing. And I think that's by design. And that's the Lincoln Riley system. Baker won Heisman, all these guys. That's just what he does. So let's go to Rice. Let's go to Jerry's son, Brendan Rice. Again, same game here, 76.5. And Josh, we saw him leave the Colorado game with injury. And so I'm a little muddy on that aspect right there. And I haven't really seen a lot of reporting. Usually there's not a lot of reporting with injured players in college football, which is lame and needs to change. But sell me on this. Is Brendan Rice going to be playing? Do you trust that he will be playing?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything else, right? And so that could mean that he's not playing. But I think he came back in that game and he played after that injury. And so I'm trusting that he's going to be okay and going to get his normal workload. But who knows? I will say if we get a Zachariah Branch prop and Brendan Rice doesn't play for some reason, that Zachariah Branch may be an interesting one as a guy that I think could have a big game. He came back in practice this week and looks good to go. So, but we'll see, man. I think if he doesn't play, then it just it X's out and it's not a big deal. So.
No, so I'm over on this one. If he plays, he's Mr.
Yeah.
Touchdown. He leads this team in touchdowns. He's got, I don't know, 6 or 7 game streak with a touchdown. He's got a really nice connection with Caleb Williams. So I like it. And he's a terrific player, by the way, too. 76.5. And again, like you can just kind of, I don't know, pick 2 or 3 of them, go over. And you might hit on all 3. You're probably going to hit on 2. You're probably not going to miss on more than 2. It's just a Caleb Williams offense, man. And it's in a game where they're set up with a very, very good matchup here. And so before we get out of here, Josh, let's talk about the Red River rivalry and who you got here. The number is down to 5. It's been bigger. Texas was around a touchdown. I saw it right before we came on the air here. It's down to 5. Who do you like here? We know that you back the Longhorns. I presume you're sticking with them here in the biggest game of the year for the Horns so far.
Yeah. I trust who Texas has played more than I trust who Oklahoma's played. And in the games that might be tough for Oklahoma, I mean, we're talking about Cincinnati. It was like 20-6. I think against SMU it was like 21-7 or 28-7. Like they just haven't been impressive with anybody that's given them, that has a modicum of talent. And I think Texas has played some tougher competition, right? They blew out Kansas last week, 40-14. Now the starting quarterback wasn't playing, but still, I mean, Baylor, they've done what they're supposed to do. And then Alabama, we saw what they did there. So I think Texas is much more tested. I did see a stat that like Oklahoma's just not getting a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And if you're not going to get pressure on Quinn Ewers, and he's got time to throw the ball, and they got both the passing game and the running game working, then I think Oklahoma's in trouble. And Dylan Gabriel, this is his first Red River rivalry. We don't know how he's going to respond to. It's a crazy stadium and it's a crazy atmosphere. Don't know how he's going to respond in a big game. So I'm going to trust Quinn Ewers and the Texas passing attack and the running game. And I think they easily cover the 5-point spread.
Wow, I'm on record here on Fantasy Points College Football, going with Oklahoma plus the points. I think I got it at 7 or 6.5. When I released it. It's an article on Fantasy Points right now that you all can read. I'm going to put out the video for it tomorrow. But I don't know, man. I at 5, it's almost in no man's land for me. I really liked it at Oklahoma plus 6.5 or 7. 5 is kind of a no man's land for me. Like I could see Texas. I don't know. It's weird how a point or 2 changes that. But if we're at a tutty, that's a big difference from 5. And so we've also had Oklahoma money coming in to drive it down like that. And so I think Oklahoma is going to be very competitive in this football game. That to me is the bottom line. They've been extremely dominant. They have woodshedded just about every team that they have played. Their defense is really good. Now, to Josh's point, they're not battle tested. They don't have the resume in terms of opponents, but they're cranking the opponents that they're playing. I mean, Arkansas State's 3-2, right? I mean, they're Arkansas State, but 73-0. Okay. And Tulsa 66-17. Tulsa's like, okay, they don't completely suck. They're not, an FCS team that just got cranked like that. So I don't know, man. I got a feeling on Oklahoma that they're going to play very well and carry over this play and cover that spread. Again, at 5, I don't love it. At 7, I did. So I don't know. Maybe it boomerangs back for the people here. Yeah. But Josh, one more game here. Kentucky at UGA. Do we get the upset? Do we find? Because a lot of people in college football are mad at Georgia, right, for not taking on a more competitive non-conference schedule. And Georgia just says, we'll see you in the playoffs. Screw y'all, right? Because they don't care. Yeah. And it's been a very successful formula for them, even if it's mildly shady. Can Kentucky with Devin Leary go into Athens and knock off the Dogs, who are back-to-back champs? What do you see?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know if they're the team to do it. I mean, I haven't seen enough from Devin Leary in the passing game to do it. If they were the ones that were like killing it through the air and Ray Davis was the one struggling, I would feel better about it. But you're not going to go in there and pound the rock on Georgia. This is not Florida. But somebody will go in. Somebody will beat Georgia this year. I just think that Mike Bobo is not his predecessor, Todd Monken. I think they're having a little bit of regret in letting Georgia Tech take Buster Faulkner and being stuck with Mike Bobo, because I think that offense has serious problems. And it's going to catch up to him at some point. I don't know that Kentucky's the team to do it. I think it's going to take somebody like Tennessee with a little bit more firepower.
Josh, I like everything you're saying. I don't think Kentucky is the team to go in and knock off the Dogs. However, they might cover this spread. It's 14.5. The Dogs have looked vulnerable to me. They were, again, different scenario, different team, but they had a 14.5-point spread last week. They did not even come close to covering that spread at Auburn. So, Georgia, oh, by the way, is 0-5 against the spread. 0-5. They've not covered one game this year, okay? So be very careful. Be very, very careful with Georgia this week. I don't know, man. It's a treacherous game. It really is. We could be, upset alert and all that kind of stuff. Again, I think UGA is going to win, but I don't like laying the points with UGA. I can tell you that right now. Josh, before we get out of here, I want you to tell our great audience here on the Prop Show with Cam and Josh on Fantasy Points College Football. Tell them about our awesome platform and all the bells and whistles they can get into to help them make some money and win fantasy leagues.
Yeah, man. Well, our biggest thing right now is, we have this prop show, right? We're hitting a 71% here. Mike Bainbridge is doing an awesome job of writing about props over there. You're doing a great job with betting. We got projections that for all 133 FBS teams, which is just crazy. And then our DFS stuff, man. Like, we've been hitting on Saturdays. We got a main slate live stream that's coming out tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And so, I feel really good about what we've been doing, and it's been really fun to watch people make money and to be part of that process. And so, yeah, thanks for coming on here, Cam, and doing the show with me. I'm so pumped for these props this week. I believe we're going to have a really good week and get back on track. So excited.
I am as well. Josh, appreciate all those comments, my friend. Good luck in ATL radio this week. I'm trying to, I'm coming off an L, man. This is not what we do with the camp program over here. And so I'm going to be trying to go to 4-2. And I got some of my boys back. I got Cam Ward. I got Josh Kelly. I got Giddens back. So I think we may be able to go to work a little bit here. But good luck to your Horns, my friend, in the Red River rivalry on Saturday. Good luck to your Horns, man, and be well. We'll talk next week, all right?
All right. Peace.